How's it going, everybody? Last week, I started a discussion with you about what I expect to see from Nintendo in 2019, but that was only the first part of that topic. In part 2, we're going to move forward a little bit and discuss Nintendo's current home console, the Nintendo Switch. There are a couple things in particular that I want to talk about when it comes to the Switch in 2019. The first being software. What can we expect from first parties, third parties, and indies to come out before the end of the year? There are a lot of returning franchises coming from the House of Mario in 2019, including Pokemon, Fire Emblem, Animal Crossing, and Luigi's Mansion 3. I mean, really, who thought that Luigi's Mansion would turn into a franchise in its own right and have 3 titles in it? Those are the type of decisions that really make me love Nintendo as a game developer. Those are only a small group of the games coming out for Nintendo Switch this year, and I'm already impressed by the pedigree and variety of those titles. The Pokemon franchise has always heavily been associated with Nintendo's handheld devices. But in 2019, the mainline RPG core experience that you expect from a Pokemon title is making its way onto a home console. I fully expect to see graphical updates, more online capabilities, and generally just a Pokemon experience that really opens itself up to what a home console is really capable of doing. But what's really awesome about the Switch is that we're not going to be losing any of that portable magic that the Pokemon series has made such good use of for such a long time. But if there was one thing that I really wanted out of this new Pokemon title in 2019, it's for Game Freak to kind of take a step back and really think about the core experience coming out of that game. After having played Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee, I can confidently say that although those are very different games from a more traditional experience, I really appreciated how refreshing it was to see such unique changes within the formula. It was both the retraction of the random battles and the overemphasis on capturing that really ignited that motivation in me to go out there and catch as many as I possibly could. I'm not saying that I think Game Freak should just take all of those changes from Let's Go and bring it into 2019, because Let's Go was a very different game with a very different purpose. But I do think that the Let's Go games had a feeling of surprise to them. They were unique in their own way, and I want to see that again in a Pokemon game. Like Pokemon fans, the Animal Crossing fanbase has also been waiting for a more core traditional Animal Crossing experience since New Leaf launched on the 3DS many years ago. We have gotten some Animal Crossing style games since then, like Pocket Camp on mobile, Amiibo Festival, Happy Home Designer, but none of those experiences really scratch the itch to play a more traditional Animal Crossing experience, to play that next installment that we're getting in 2019. And it is because we've had such a break from that series that I am more than ready to hop back into the world of Animal Crossing, to buy a house, to owe Tom Nook even more money, and to see what I can do with the environment around me. But if there was one thing I could really wish for when it comes to Animal Crossing 2019 on Nintendo Switch, is that they work on the online capabilities for the game. In the same way that you can share a server on Minecraft or play multiplayer on Stardew Valley, that's what I want to see out of Animal Crossing. I want to have a shared village with my friends that evolves even when I'm not playing. You have Fire Emblem, the 3 houses, which, can I just take a moment to say that that name is kind of strange. It's not a name that I would have chosen. Whenever I hear 3 houses, I just think of Fates and how that game was split up into 3 different cartridges, and that's not something that I'm super interested in. I get what they were trying to do with that, but at the same time, I really did feel like I was only getting a part of the experience, even though I paid full price. So I hope that they don't do that with 3 houses, but I would imagine that it probably made them more money for Fates, so I don't know. Besides just the new games that are coming from Nintendo in 2019, I hope to see a bunch of other experiences sprinkled throughout the year to make sure that we don't run into any dry spells or droughts. For example, I expect to see a lot of ports in 2019 from the Wii U and probably also from other consoles. There was that one article a few months back talking about how Skyward Sword could make its way onto the Switch. Whether it's Skyward Sword or some other game, it's actually just really cool to think about Nintendo reaching further back than the Wii U to bring games up onto the Switch. I also expect Nintendo to continue this paradigm of supporting the games that they're releasing with more DLC. Super Mario Party comes to mind as a game that could definitely use more boards, characters, and minigames in 2019. But there's one game in particular that I really want to see get paid downloadable content in 2019, and that's Super Mario Odyssey. Playing that game way back in 2017 was just so much fun, and I am more than ready for Nintendo to give me a package of DLC that lets me have more kingdoms, more locations, more hidden moons, and more Cappy transformations that really lets me sink my teeth back into that game and relive that experience like it's the first time all over again. And how can I forget to mention that Smash Brothers is going to get a lot more DLC in 2019, starting with Joker from Persona 5 joining the roster. But that's enough about the first parties coming to Nintendo Switch. What about third parties in 2019? With a wide range of titles that came to the console last year, including Fortnite, Warframe, Paladins, and Diablo 3, 2018 really showed that third parties are more on board with the Nintendo Switch than ever. And the momentum just seems to keep on moving forward well into 2019. We already know about games like Mortal Kombat 11, Doom Eternal, and Crash Team Racing, but I suspect that we'll hear a lot more from third-party publishers throughout the year. I can't imagine a world where Joker from Persona 5 joins the Smash Bros. Roster and Persona 5R does not make its way onto the Nintendo Switch. I also think that 2019 will be the year that we see third parties commit even harder onto the Nintendo Switch, because that seems to be the trend that we're moving forward to. There was so much positivity surrounding that Diablo 3 port that I could easily see Hearthstone or Overwatch make their way onto the console. I also wouldn't be surprised if Take-Two takes a second look and we finally see Grand Theft Auto 5 making its way onto the Nintendo Switch, or a Borderlands remaster of some sort. That positive momentum, by the way, will also very likely carry over to the indie scene as well. We already know about games like Super Meat Boy, the next Shovel Knight expansion, and Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. But the thing that I'm most interested in 2019 for the indies are the ones that we don't really know about yet, or at least the ones that we're not talking about. And that's it. That's everything. Those are all the games, right? I know you're probably looking at me thinking, what about Metroid? What about Bayonetta? You didn't talk about those. And the reason I didn't is because I really don't believe they're 2019 games. We heard nothing about Metroid in 2018, and in 2017, that teaser was probably the skimpiest teaser you possibly could have made for Metroid Prime 4. For Bayonetta 3, I honestly don't know, but I'm also not a big Bayonetta fan in general, so I'm personally not invested in it. But if you take the Metroid / Bayonetta / none of those, and you combine it with the indies and the third parties and the first parties and the DLC and the ports, 2019 is loaded, and we haven't even gotten into it yet. 2019 will also probably be the year where things get a little shaken up on the hardware side of things as well. At this point in time, you've probably heard every possible combination of what the future of the Switch's hardware could be like. There's the Switch Pro, the Switch Lite, the new Switch, the Switch that's the same but a little bit thinner, the Switch where the Joy-Cons are burnt into it so that it's a handheld only. But regardless of which of those end up being true, the consistent through line has always been 2019. And I do anticipate that one of those things will likely happen to the Nintendo Switch in 2019 because of the 3DS. The 3DS is still alive and kicking for the purpose of serving a different market than the Switch. Because the 3DS has fewer sales and not a lot of games scheduled in 2019, that puts Nintendo in a spot where they still have to fill that beginner demographics in some way for the year. And that's why what I believe is no matter what they do with the Switch, the result is going to be a cheaper console. Or they announce a Switch that's a handheld only where the Joy-Cons are built into it and has less features like no dock, no Joy-Con grip, and they sell that for cheaper. Or they do no iteration at all and they just start selling the Switch without the dock, period. And they can still sell that for like $200 at least. Whether they increase the amount of features on that baby, decrease the amount of features, just do a pure update refresh of some sort, I'm sure the result is going to be that by the time fall October hits, right before the holiday season, you will be able to buy a Switch in an entryway price model so that it will take over for the 2DS, 3DS line of systems. And that is everything that I really wanted to talk about in regards to the Switch's hardware and software in 2019. Whether or not you like any of the franchises coming to the Switch in 2019, and whether or not you like this idea of updating the hardware in some way 2 years after the release of the console, it's hard to deny the fact that 2019 is going to be a very special year for Nintendo and for the Switch. Although the company still has a bunch of other initiatives which I have not talked about yet. Things like mobile and online, theme parks, movies, all of that stuff, and we're going to get into that in part 3. But we're going to wrap things up for this video, and as always, if you have any input, opinions, conversations, discussions that you want to partake in, feel free to comment below, follow me on Twitter, talk to me there. My name is Rami, this has been Heart Containers, and thanks for watching.